Welcome everyone to
Welcome in.
Journey through the Interverse with us here. In this episode, we will be talking about dream incubation, which is, it's such a beautiful topic. But before we get into it, I just want to do an energy check-in. How are you doing today, Alexis?
I am exhausted. I mean, the whole day was beautiful. It was like a very fall, rainy, overcast, chilly day, which gave me a lot of like good energy on one hand, but then the other hand, I'm totally exhausted. Which we discussed. I shouldn't be totally exhausted because I'm in like my prime area in my cycle and everything. I should just be feeling really good, but I'm so tired. I was saying after this, I'm probably going to go right to bed, which is unusual for me because I will stay up till like 3 a.m. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength. It's so I definitely get the feeling that there's something energetically happening as I've talked to other people today and they're feeling it too. And I know the weather here in New York is very gloomy and very rainy, which was is nice. And at the same time, when there are a lot of things that you have to do, it's like work and be productive. It is really a challenge. Like everything inside of me just wanted to lay on the couch and not be on camera, to be honest. But we're here and we're really, excited and we're always inspired to and motivated to show up here. Even at the times where it's just really hard, we're still like, this is a really good place to be in every moment, and it rejuvenates us and energizes us by the time we're done. So, and then
Yes.
yes, we can quickly like go to bed too. I've had those moments. So, but I'm really happy to be here. And I want to just touch on the astrology right now and what's coming, as it definitely had an inspiration for this topic tonight that we're going to discuss, which is dream incubation. So before I even get into the astrology, the energy, I just want to define what dream incubation means. And so my just personal definition is that it's the act of setting an intention to receive personal guidance and insight through your dream space. Do you have it, do you want to add anything to that, or did you have something different,
Yeah.
or yeah?
So I got a good definition off of psychology today. Dream incubation is the attempt to connect the dreaming me to the wakeful me and to access the valuable insights hidden within. I also have my own, which is to ask the dream for a message of some kind or to just decide what you want to dream about before you dream it. So that's where I am. And honestly, all three of those align pretty well. So take from any of those. I think that was great.
Yeah. And so essentially at the core, it's like communicating with your dream dream creator, or you could say your higher consciousness, your dream guide, your higher self, however you want to, wherever it is that you go, or whoever communicates with you in the dream space, you essentially are directly communicating that to that with intention, with a specific question or a request, right? And usually it's something of your benefit when it comes to healing or some sort of solution, which we'll talk about, why you would use dream incubation and how you would use it and how it's beneficial. And so I want to bring it to the astrological energy. What we're feeling right now and why this was an inspiration is that this week we are essentially in between eclipses. So we're recording this on September 25th of 2024. We just had a major powerful eclipse in Pisces. It was a full moon lunar eclipse. And now we're coming up to the next eclipse, which is going to be a solar eclipse in Libra. And that one's really powerful because this particular alignment of the sun and moon is really close to the alignment of the path in which the sun and moon cross. So that's how you get eclipses, is when the sun and moon are in a close proximity to where each of their paths intersect. And so there's this like nice alignment. And so as we're in the space, the in between, interestingly enough, between these eclipses, this is the like, I will add also to this that Mercury is very close to the sun. So what I've been picking up as far as like when it comes to communication and perception and like even logic and understanding things, it's really hard to do that. Like it's really hard to communicate with words. So one of the things I've talked about recently was like pay attention to body language. Of course, pay attention to your dreams and, you know, pay attention to your emotions and just like the subtle energies, the nuances within everything, because that is how you will really understand whatever is going on, or like some sort of communication or information. And that is how you will gain your clarity, is through these very subtle energies. And as we are recording this, as I mentioned, on September 25th, on September 30th is Mercury's alignment, exact alignment with the sun. And this is in Libra. This is 2 days before the eclipse. So this is really important. And when Mercury and the sun come into this exact alignment known as a cazimi, it was perceived or observed by the ancient astrologers and astronomers as divine alignment, as a very auspicious moment, as earthly intelligence, or the correspondences of Mercury is in alignment with divine intelligence. So it enters into the heart of the sun, and other planets have this connection as well. But being that Mercury is so close to the sun, it's even more potent, right? And so in my practice, before I even really got into dream work, this was a time where I was like, okay, dream incubation was a recommendation, was a suggestion, even though I wasn't actually like doing the intentional dream work. And so I knew that was coming up very soon, as I mentioned, September 30th. And also this was prompted by 2 dreams that I had. And I felt the desire, I wanted to have a third one just to get clarity and tie it all together. And so I'm like, oh, this was on our list anyways. Let's talk about dream incubation. So that essentially is the inspiration for the dream. That is kind of the energy right now, where we are in a space where it's almost easier to communicate through dreams and through, you know, telepathy and all those kind of things, like through body language and feeling your body and whatnot. So that's where we're at right now with this particular episode and this discussion.
It's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, this is going to be, I'm really curious to see how everything unfolds, you know, leading up to the eclipse and what comes forth with that, especially with the Mercury cazimi, then the solar eclipse. Yeah. It's going to be a lot. So this is a literal live, I want to say, experiment or ritual that I am beginning, you know, essentially at this time, and to see what happens as we get closer and closer to the eclipse. And so I really invite, you know, you all listening, if you listen around that time or whenever you listen, to try this out for yourself and see what kind of results you get. And definitely with this, you want to give space and time for it to unfold, because it might not, your guidance, the solution you're looking for, just the message may not come right away. And I'll share, you know, my experience here in a little bit, but definitely give it space, give it time, and have patience. But it's so profound when you can really do this and connect with your dreaming, you know, your dream guide, your higher consciousness.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be coming around to so like my biggest issue is finding the questions to ask when it comes to dream incubation. So this week I'm going to be prepping for that question that I can use for, you know, several days in a row or within the next entire week, and really hone in on that. because I'm very disorganized with my dreaming. So we'll
Hmm.
see how that goes. I'm excited to take away from this, because I am not as familiar with dream incubation. Not that I don't know what it is, it's more so that I don't use it often. So this
Hmm.
is going to be a really exciting experience for me and a new experience. So
Yeah. This is literally what I don't know if I would say it's what got me into dream work. Actually, yeah. Because I was already doing the energetic intentional practices and rituals, and I felt like it just wasn't getting deep enough. And so I would say my whole approach was through this practice of dream incubation without really understanding or realizing that, oh, this is an actual thing. And I was doing this, as I mentioned, before I got into the intentional dream work. So I feel my deep connection to dream incubation, it really comes back to my connection with ancient Egypt and with ritual. And so I have said many times that, yes, I'm an astrologer, but I do prefer celestial timekeeper, because I definitely keep records. I'm paying attention to the stars, the alignment, as if it's like a cosmic clock, essentially.
yep.
And so I look at it as this is the time, this is the climate for this particular energy or this particular ritual. And I'm always doing rituals and practices to learn more about myself, to better myself. And so when I started to look a little bit deeper into dream temples, because that's kind of what came up in dream research as far as ancient Egypt, I began to see their ritual and how that's so important around dreaming and around how powerful that can be for healing. And so they had specific temples. A lot of the time they were, associated with specific gods. But what was so important is that, individuals who needed some sort of, usually it's healing some sort of illness, or maybe they had, several nightmares and bad dreams that kind of felt like, an omen. And so they would go to these specific temples and they would stay the night. They would fast, they would cleanse, they would have like a ritual bath. Like it would be a whole thing. And so it just, when I learned about that, it felt so true. And it just kind of amplified or affirmed my practice within ritual work and with dreams. And it's kind of how you bring that together, because of course I do appreciate dreaming in the sense of like whatever's meant to come to me, allow that to come. But I think it's good to have the balance, because I know some people don't even really dive into lucid dream, because it's like, I want to be in this space, my dreaming space, to like let go of control. And they feel, lucid dreaming can definitely bring forth some type of control in a sense. And with dream incubation, I see kind of like a similar thing where it's like, okay, I can just open the space to whatever's meant to come forth, or I can work in alignment or co-create with my consciousness, my psyche. And, sometimes I can have a specific, intention. And now that I've gotten deeper into the dream work, I pay attention to my dreams and what comes up. And in this particular case, as of recently, I've had two dreams that seem very connected, also a little confusing. And so I'm like, oh, this is a perfect time to do some sort of like to set an intention and ask my psyche, my higher consciousness, like, okay, can I get more clarity on this? Or being, more specific with a question.
I love that. I love that you started really from the ritualistic aspect, and I feel like that helps me more because I have never been ritualistic. My dreaming and lucid dreaming has been very like whatever is, whatever messages will come to me will come to me, and then I diverge, or I go into it and understand it better within the dream and outside of the dream in my waking life. So to kind of go into the idea of more of a ritual, I feel like it helps me with decision making, because
Mm-hmm.
one of the more difficult things for me when it comes to like dream incubation is I don't know what to ask. and I don't know what to set down. And to me, that feels like work, because it is, to an extent. It like you have to put in the effort for it to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was listening to that podcast, they were talking about how sometimes it doesn't happen right away, that you have to do it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes for, nights in a row or weeks in a row before like you really get that message, which we've experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
um but for me, it's always been an easier thing to just say whatever messages I need, come to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And really, with that ritualistic aspect, and why I appreciate our relationship, is because it gives me the perspective and understanding of why that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, even though I've learned a lot about myself through the way that I dream, I understand that I can go deeper into that. And I am now at a point where I'm more willing and able to do that. And I do find, like, I find the idea of, like, going back to talking about the ancient Egyptians, the idea of a temple to go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
and to dream is such a valuable asset to a community, in my opinion. It's not always easy to reach into your subconscious or your higher self or otherworldly, what, deities and beings and stuff, in your own dream space, or
Mm-hmm.
like in your own sleep space, like your own home. It could be cluttered. Things could be, the energies could be off. The way that you're functioning isn't focused. Where the idea of a dream temple where you can go, and that is the entire point of the place. There's no
Yeah.
distraction. There's no clutter. There's no outside energies of your home and things that have been going on and baggage. It's a place to clear and to really dive deep into that unconscious. And I think that would be so valuable in our modern day,
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh, yes.
with
Yes.
being so, our society's been so disconnected from dreams for so long,
Mm-hmm.
that it would only be helpful to have a place where you can go to really dive deeper into yourself, not so much like an educational way, but more so like a sanctuary way, a place to just
Mm-hmm.
be.
Yes.
So I love that about the ancient Egyptians, and I actually envy them deeply when it comes to that.
Right? Yes. Yes. And the Greeks had it too. I know the
Mm-hmm.
Greco, I saw in just my short research that the Greco-Roman period, that was a time where it was like, it was definitely a very significant and ongoing practice. And what's really interesting is that when I was, we were Alexis and I were listening to the same podcast, which they briefly mentioned that, and the podcast that we're referring to is This Jungian Life. They had an episode specifically on dream incubation, which we'll kind of touch on here in a minute. But what was really interesting is that in preparation for this episode, and of course, I talked about the inspiration, how I've had the two dreams, and I was in my mind, just in the moment, deciding when I would really do like the ritual or like whatever it was I was going to do, when I was really going to like have, this is the night that I like set it into motion, whether I write it or do a ritual, whatever I choose to do. And I was thinking about it, and I'm actually going out of town this weekend to my mother's house. And I was a little bummed out about it because I was like, man, I want to be at home to do this. I don't want to be at my mother's, which, my mom's is in a sense, home away from home. And there's less distractions there. But I was like, I want to be in my bed with my things. And like, it just made sense for me to be in my room. And then coming back to this research, how they would actually, it is a thing to sleep somewhere different when you're doing dream incubation. I was just blown away. I was like, wait a minute,
Alignment.
like this is actually
Alignment.
perfect because I'm not going to be at home. I'm even one of those nights I'm going to be staying at a friend's house where I'm not even going to be sleeping with my child, which is the first time in almost 5 years. So I'm just like, This is really interesting, and it got me even more excited about this dream incubation experience. And maybe even like you could just sleep on the couch in your house, or maybe turn another room into like a little sacred space, like create, back in the day we used to create like tents and forts with sheets and whatnot. And like, so maybe doing something like that cool in your home if you can't really get away for the night, just to kind of set that intention and put that out there. But I just thought that was I was so excited to share it. I didn't share it over the voice messages because I'm gonna wait until we are on this live to share that. I was really excited about that, because that was like a pet peeve. I was like, man, I'm not going to be at home. Like, I don't, like, I got to figure out how I can do it before I leave, if I'm going to be ready. And so, yeah, that was right on point.
No, and that's perfect. That alignment is insane, because you were talking about how like you really wanted to be home for this, to the whole astrological events that are going on and with dream work and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But the fact that that brings you to a different place where you are not carrying what you would normally carry at home is
Mm-hmm.
so significant. And
Mm-hmm.
if you really like, if you wanted to, you could bring yourself like a travel dream work like
And
kit,
I will
right?
do that.
So
Yeah.
put together stones, candles,
Mm-hmm.
different aspects of your ritual with you to set up. So even though you're away from home, you have a little bit of new influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited to hear what you kind of get out of that. And maybe I'll
Yeah.
go sleep somewhere else. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
just suck it up and go sleep somewhere else for like the night and just see how
Yeah.
I feel and what happens, because it is very interesting. I
Yeah.
would love to go to a dream temple. I just, oh God, it just
We're gonna
sounds
have
so
one. We're gonna have
beautiful.
one.
that
It's in the
that would
making.
be so amazing.
Yes.
And to not have like an alarm to wake you up, and not like, everything kind of is just,
Mm-hmm.
you're in that space. It just opens the door for so much.
Yeah, you're so connected to just life around you and the energy. For a long time, I didn't have to wake up to an alarm. Now my daughter's in school, so I have the alarm set like 4 days out of the week. And I'm just like, oh no. But it's definitely, I can really see the value in being in a different space, especially like you mentioned, not having an alarm, and just like it just the essence of a temple or a sanctuary, where it's like you have your incense, you have your candle, you have like just nature around you. And before we even hit record and showed up live, we were talking about just like what it would be to have like a dream temple. And I mentioned my vision of like having the reflection pool, like a circular pool that's in like the middle of a courtyard. So then you can get the moon
Yes.
reflection on it, and we can do scrying and just like dance in the
With like the
moonlight. Yeah.
sunroof right above it, just
Yes, it's all
everything
open to the
aligned, just
sky.
sky.
You
Yes.
can
Oh,
see the stars and everything. And then you go
I
to bed
just
at night. Can you imagine the
imagine.
dreams you would have
Oh
after
my
like
God, the
spending a night in that
magic. It would
space?
just
Like,
feel, I just feel like it would open up a whole other realm
it would,
beyond what
yeah,
we experience in our own sleep spaces.
absolutely.
No, back to that podcast episode. And if you guys haven't listened to it yet, I highly recommend it. It is really good. The guests that they have on, I feel like I'm gonna screw up his name. I'm like so
Mc,
nervous.
Mc, Mc, Michael,
Machiel Klerk.
Michael Klerk.
All right.
So the podcast that
He
we're talking about, I'll mention, is just this Jungian life, and it was featuring Machiel Klerk, and we'll link it in the description, so you can just go there. Yeah.
so Machiel Klerk is so level-headed and grounded with his dream work practice. And that's something that I found to be more relatable than some other dream workers. Just because, we're all existing in our own bubbles, our own beliefs, our own, things. And listening to him talk, it felt very inclusive, and it kind of covered, like, he doesn't believe in one specific thing when it comes to dream work. He has a very open mind about it, and I find that that was really just really nice, because when things are a little too specific, it's hard to relate. So for him having more of an open world view on like these aspects, it felt, I was more interested in listening. And I know that sounds bad, but we're humans, and
Yeah,
some things
whatever
throw us
resonates,
off.
resonate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that he says within this podcast that I thought stuck out and was wonderful is, you don't have to be a scholar to engage with your own soul or psyche. I love
So
that,
well said.
because
So well
you
said.
don't. And I think a lot of people need to understand that you don't have to be a Jungian analyst to study your dreams. Like, it's your experience. And they talk about that. It's your experience. And what you get from it is what you get from it. And the other aspect of the podcast that I found very interesting is they were talking about how dreams are the mysterious companion that we can access within ourselves. And I just thought that was another quote that just like really resonated with me. Like, oh, it's our companion. It's whether it's ourselves, whether it's God, deities, higher self, outside things, whatever you believe, we have access to it. And it's mysterious.
And it's
that's
us.
half the reason. Yeah, it's
us. It's so unique to us. Like, no one can tell you, like, no, this is wrong. Your psyche saying this, because guess what? No one knows your psyche, your unconscious better than you, because it is you.
Absolutely. And I'll just throw in, so he has a book. It's called Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation. I just listened and found this dream worker today because of you, Urania, and the Jungian life. I was so he had such an impact on me that even though I haven't read his book yet, I'm probably gonna buy it like tomorrow.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna buy it. Yeah,
because it's so, like I said, he's so grounded. And from what these Jungian analysts were talking about, it's that he was able to create a book that had a lot of information, but it was made to like swallow easier. Like, it was an easier swallow of a book, so you can understand it a little easier than some other ones. Because I mean, I've tried to read some of Jung's books.
Oh, they're dense. They're definitely dense.
They're dense, sometimes really, really hard to understand, because I'm not really super educated, and there's a lot of words I don't understand, and that's just me personally. But to create a book that has a lot of knowledge, but is also easy to understand, is something that I value a lot.
Superpower.
So if you're interested in understanding more about dream incubation through his lens, it's Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation, and his name is Machiel Klerk, and that's Machiel Klerk.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so there was,
when I'm mentioning people, I want to make sure that it's correct.
Oh yeah, no, you're great. And that's so thoughtful of you. So, and I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to butcher your name. Yeah. And what I also like that they mentioned in the book, or in the podcast, which is from the book, what they mentioned, this quote, and this is essentially Machiel's, Klerk's, basically his perspective on why dream incubation is beneficial. So I'll read the quote because you just can't summarize it. It's just perfect. So he says that dream incubation fosters personal growth and moves away from any form of codependence on other people, books, dogmas, organizations, or substances. It breaks any form of dependence that is in conflict with the genuine loving relationship with yourself and therefore with your dreams. Dream incubation is your direct relationship with dreaming with no need of interference with someone else. The incubation dream is a personal revelation to yourself. So as we said, it's you. It's a direct line of communication to you, your quiet self, your subconscious, unconscious, psyche, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's the direct way to communicate to that aspect of you. And so why not? And so here are just a few ways in which you can utilize dream incubation for. One is the biggest one, of course, overall in general, is for guidance and or a solution with a challenge you're currently experiencing. Also for healing, that's a big one during Mercury Cazimi. If you are unsure of your question, what you want clarity on or a message about, I just tell people, hey, just ask for healing for whatever you need right now. Just ask for that divine essence of healing for you in this moment, whatever is essential. You can also use dream incubation for overcoming nightmares and anxious dreams. You can use it for divine protection. That was definitely one of the main experiences for the ancient Egyptians, as far as like dreamers that would come to the temple. If it wasn't for, health reasons, as I mentioned, it could be like some sort of recurring dream, nightmare that, presented some sort of apparent omen, bad omen. They would go to particular temples and go there for protection, to ask for protection. Also, I've seen in pretty much every lucid dreaming guide or book, they mention that dream incubation will help you with lucid dreaming, as it's kind of like an initial step, or like a big step in really bridging that connection to the awareness within your dream and connecting with your or bridging all aspects of your consciousness.
Yeah, I'd also like to add in too, from the field guide of lucid dreaming, I was reading, and one of the things that they mentioned that I thought was just kind of funny and interesting in that chapter of dream incubation is the idea of sleep on it, and how, like, we kind of say that just to give ourselves some time, but in reality, like, a lot of people go to sleep with the intention of making big decisions. And that sleep on aspect is like
Yes.
asking your higher self or whatever what your decision should be. And I think that's so important, because I find that to be extremely valuable. Like, if you have a big decision to make and you're unsure yet, take a few days to just live with it, live with the options, and allow your dreams to kind of guide you as well. Because something that I find interesting is that, and well, I believe is that you know what you want before you even know what you want. Like, you know what you want before you even know what you want, before you say it out loud. And sometimes it's just kind of stuck in our subconscious. So sleeping and then having that dream that points you in the direction of where you need to go can be so beneficial for being in that position.
Yeah. No, I am the queen of sleep on it. I think I would used to piss off people because, I know there's also one thing, where it's don't go to bed angry. Right. And it's like, you got to figure it out now. And I've always just, I don't know, I've been such an advocate for just leave it there, let it be. There's a lot of intense emotions there. And whether it's emotions of excitement, and it's like, I got to jump on this, or it's like, very passionate, like frustrating or angry type emotions, it's so important to sleep on it, because I feel, just from my own experience, even if it comes to acting on something, there was always kind of like this energy of like lack in a sense, or I'm going to lose this thing. I got to hop on it now. And then sometimes it'll backfire on me, or I feel like I need to respond to someone, because if I don't respond, then they're going to feel this way, or like write me off, or be like, oh, you didn't respond to me right away, so you're being this, and that. And So then I would respond with like a gut, or knee jerk, reaction. And when I took time later to really sit with it, it's like, oh, like you gain clarity around it. And so I love that you bring that up, because I didn't even think of it from that perspective. But yeah, the sleep on it is essential, because you just get so much clarity, you get peace. Even if you don't go to bed with a specific intention around it, it's just, you're like, okay, it's like that separation of like, that's here, I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to sleep, and then I'll come back to it in the morning with a fresh state of mind, fresh
Yeah.
perspective. And so that, oh my goodness, that's like my big aha moment for this conversation. I'm like, yes,
No, and
that
I
is so on
completely
point.
agree with you. I have angered a lot of people in not responding right away or letting there be time between the intense conversation where they want to get it. They want to have the conversation. They want to take care of it and move forward and whatever. I don't think that when you are emotional, that your brain is clear thinking. Like when you're in an argument or a fight or something, there is your own emotions clouding your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you have that conversation or you have that reaction or you make those decisions too quickly, it can really cause issues that are not necessary. And a lot of the times it does backfire, and you realize that you were actually wrong after you have that reaction.
Yeah.
Or you just have a different way of approaching the conversation. You give yourself time, there's a different way of approaching it. You look at everything, you realize, you know what, I'm firm in my belief. I felt this way and I still feel this way, but now with a kind of like a sober from emotion mind, you can go into it a little easier. And people don't like that. People don't like that. That has caused a lot of issues. And I'm also somebody who advocates from taking time from someone, maybe not even just a couple days, but maybe a couple weeks or months, because if there's high intensity and things are just you're just butting heads too much, you both need your own space. You need to
Mm-hmm.
think about things. You need to calm down. You have to take a break. But you're right,
Mm-hmm.
like people get really upset about that because they want immediate resolve. And it just doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way. And it can
Mm-hmm.
just make things so much worse going into it immediately. I 100% agree with the sleep on it. You just need some time to let
Mm-hmm.
things simmer
Yeah.
and a new perspective, whether that be just from your waking self or including your dream self. A lot of the times, the dreams really do come through and they're like giving you input and direction, and you don't even realize it until you wake up and you're like a couple days out and you're like, actually this makes so much sense, and I can really follow the symbolism and the feelings I had within this dream to help guide me through the next steps of this argument or this decision. So yeah, I really loved that the field guide of lucid dreaming had that, and it makes me think more about it, because before I didn't actually think about the let me sleep on it outside of just some time. But
Yeah.
now talking about it and learning about
Mm-hmm.
that through that book, it puts a different spin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting too, as it really brings up the important, like, awareness around how you go to bed. And we did a poll on our Instagram for this account of basically asking people, what kind of intentions did they have before bed, or did they set intentions, or how did they approach basically their dream space, as going to bed. And there were a few answers, and a lot of it, or there was an answer, there was a response as far as like being intentional, listening to specific music that has certain frequency that can essentially raise your vibration and help you to probably more directly connect with your psyche, or these deeper, quieter aspects of yourself, or you can also look at it as your higher consciousness. Also, some people mentioned that they didn't do anything at all, and they had their own personal reactions to that via emojis, which was funny. And then there was, people that just kind of left it open where maybe they sit in contemplation or lay in contemplation before as they, go to sleep. But there's like a subtle intention or unspoken intention of the acknowledgement that this is the space where I will learn more about myself, essentially, or just to uncover the deeper truths. Like that unconscious or not unconscious, but unspoken intention is like always there before they go to bed. And I think it's really important to pay attention to the state that you're in when you go to bed, because that will definitely, it'll show up in your dream space. And you
Absolutely.
can really, especially the more and more you pay attention to your dreams will kind of give you some insight to, oh, hey, you're in this space, you're in this vibration, in general. And the more dream work that I do, I've noticed when I'm in like busy parts of my life where I'm just so busy that it's like breakneck speed, my dreams are just kind of all over the place or
Yep.
anxious. Or recently I've been watching, it's spooky season, even though it's not October 1st, I don't care. It's it's
Spooky season for
September.
me started like in the beginning of
Spooky season is
August
all
when
the
I was
time,
like,
right?
I'm over the summer. I'm ready for a fall.
Right. We're getting closer and closer to fall. And so I've been watching a lot of, horror movies or just, those kind of type movies. And so my dream states is really reflected. They've been like weird and crazy, they've been fun. So you kind of get that vibe of where you are. And so I definitely do understand that perspective of, hey, don't go to bed angry. And so with that said, or, when we sleep on it, it's like you also want to take time to clear your space, whether
Yes.
like, even if it's just you energetically, or kind of like clear your mind, and then, go to your dream space, your bad time situation. And so I just think that's really important.
No, I 100% agree. And, we talked about that last week when we talked about dream within a dream or false awakenings. A lot of the times dream, like when your life is very hectic, you can have dream within dreams where the first dream is very like chaotic, but your life bled into it, like your day to day bled
Mm-hmm.
into it. And then the
Yeah.
next dreams are more deep and into your subconscious and touching on more um profound topics rather than just the work stress dream or the being in a random home and not knowing what door to choose or whatever, that
Mm-hmm.
chaos, that stress energy coming through. A lot of the times that base dream will be that, and then as you dream within a dream you get deeper into your subconscious. So I do find that letting that day energy go is very
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
That's
And
really important. Yeah.
I never realized I did it, but as working with you and talking and having these conversations with you, I noticed things that came naturally for me that I didn't actually have a definition or word for prior to.
Mm-hmm.
So before when I go to sleep, I close my eyes and I like really pay attention to what I see with my eyes closed behind my eyelids, and like allowing myself to take deep breaths and like honing in on that like dark abstract space that's kind of like creating different
Mm-hmm.
imagery between just what you see behind your eyelids and like what your brain is putting out as you go into that hypnagogic state. And that's kind of like my releasing of the day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I found that really interesting. And I did have a very tiny dream last night. I tried to do a dream incubation where I just set a very minor intention. So as I was going to sleep, I did what I just said I do. And while I was doing that, I was repeating in my head over and over until I fell asleep, I'm going to dream of the stars. I'm going to dream of the stars. I'm going to dream of the stars. And it was just something small to show up. And I don't remember much of my dreams last night. I didn't sleep very well. But what I do remember was a blip of just standing, looking up, or laying, maybe I was laying down, looking up at the sky and just seeing like a blanket of stars above me and like feeling the cold air. And that was just the tiniest little bit of the dream, but it showed that my intention I set prior to dreaming came true within the dream, even if it was just a blip.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, and you know what's interesting as I was thinking about this topic and thinking about examples, I, of course, thought about there's been so many times that you and I have had a conversation here about a specific topic. And literally, if not that night, the next night, or even the night before the conversation, I or we would have a dream like revolving around what it was we discussed.
Oh
And I
yeah.
mean, a really recent example of that was our discussion last week where we knew we were going to do the topic on false awakenings. And I had a false awakening like the day of our chat. And so I really love when that happens. And I want to just briefly touch on, before we wrap it up, I do want to touch on some techniques as well as something that really stood out to me in the podcast episode from Machiel that he mentioned was how important it is to ask the right question. So when you're really in this practice, this ritual, like you've created a ritual, like you're having the ritual bath before bed, or you're lighting the candles, you got the whole vibe situation. Or even if you just simply write a letter, because there's like, we'll go over just a few examples of techniques. There's so many different ways you can approach dream incubation, which is, I love that about, this practice, this technique. You want to be very clear about the question. And so there were 2 points, or maybe three points actually, about asking the quote unquote right question. And so one thing is that you want to ask one question at a time. And that's really important because we have, so many desires. Like even when I was thinking about this topic, and of course I mentioned it was inspired from dreams that I've already had. And I was like, okay, I want to get clarity. I love messages in threes. I already had 2 dreams that I felt were connected. I want to have a third. And then once I'm like, oh, we're doing this topic, we're coming up to Mercury Cazimi, I'm like, ooh, what else do I want to ask about? But yes, you want to really be focused and ask one question. And also, it's recommended to avoid asking yes or no questions. So you want to leave open-ended questions, or a good example is, show me what, say if you want to, I think they mentioned as an example in the episode, it's, someone had a dream, or they were deciding on where they wanted to move, or they were kind of having some just confusion about, do I want to move here, do I want to move there, like what's the best place to move. And so instead of being like, should I move here or there, it was more so like picking one of those places and asking, show me, how it would be to live at this place, or what it would look like to live at this place. So, just remembering and reminding ourselves that our dreams tend to be very like symbolic and very like visual, and, strong imagery. It's probably better to expect that sort of message or experience. And so showing me is saying, showing me this or how this would be, is, I feel, probably more beneficial than being like, oh, should I move here or there? Right. Because, and I think they gave another example of where is home? Yeah, because it was in the context of the same thing. And it's like, well, your psyche, it's going to want to go deep, especially if we're dealing with the subconscious mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, home is, inside, or who knows, right? So if you want it, you got to be very clear and direct with your question, but also leaving it like open outside of the yes or no. And then finally, you have to truly desire a solution or a guidance, or it has to be really essentially meaningful for you. And so Alexis, while you asked, okay, I want to, or you had this intention of seeing the stars in the night sky when you were in your dream space, yes, that scene can seem very like trivial to some people, but it's like where that's stemming is like it's a part of our our chat. It's a part of the podcast. And so that makes sense that it's really meaningful for you because this is real live, like experiments, research. So it really makes sense that, you know, that would manifest really quickly because it is important to you. It is meaningful to you, even though, you know, it's not like a problem that you're asking for guidance with. So I
No,
think
I
those are
agree
big
with
things.
that. I agree with
Mhm.
that wholeheartedly. It may seem small, but like something I've loved to do since I was a little kid is stargaze. Like I love laying
Mm-hmm.
outside and just staring at the stars. And I could lay there for like 15 minutes to an hour. Like I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
go inside real quickly after like looking up for a few minutes. I really love to take my time. And there's a connection to it, especially with the aspect that we are all stardust evolved, you know, that aspect of we all came, you know, we are all a part of the solar system in the aspect of being stardust and then evolving into humans. And just like the way I portray that in my art, you know, it is seems very trivial,
Yes.
but it really does mean a lot to me.
Yes. So that's so perfect. And you just gave me the memory of I used to love like in the middle of the day staring at the clouds, like staring at the
Yes.
sky and just seeing what you see in the clouds. I love that. Even now, I
No,
mean, night sky
seriously.
and day sky. I love it all, of course.
It's
Like,
so bad, but I'll
yeah.
drive home from work and like as I'm driving on the highway, I'll be like kind of like
You're like,
glancing
oh,
up
what
at the
is that?
sky, like, oh, that looks like a dragon, or like that looks like a woman diving
Yes.
into a pool. Like they're
Yeah.
making images out of like seeing images within the clouds is so beautiful, and
I love it.
it's fantastic.
I
But
love
we're
it.
very connected to the airy element, you
Oh
know, just
yeah.
being up
Yes.
in the clouds and in the sky and just the wind and
Yeah.
everything.
Getting
So that
lost
doesn't
in that.
surprise
Yeah.
me at all.
Yes. No, that's right on point. All right. So some techniques that you can bring into your practice or utilize if you are very curious and inspired to try out dream incubation. So, one of the things I like if you're a visual person or you like to have something tangible, and this is actually some of this is from the book that I was. Oh yeah, the book that I was referring to, which is a different book. It's the complete book of lucid dreaming, as I mentioned. Like most lucid dreaming books have some sort of dream incubation in there because it's a really valuable practice if you want to begin your lucid dream journey and master that. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember the author's name. I didn't write it on here, so my bad. But one of the things they recommend is to create a physical or visual representation that is, you know, associated with your intention. So it could be images. Say if you want to have a dream about someone or a place, you can have some images or some pictures that you put under your pillow, or you can, you know, put crystals under there if there's a certain intention. That also works really well if you are asking for healing. So if there's something specific, some specific area of your body that you're asking for healing, you can get the corresponding crystal, or say if it's like an energetic thing, like you know, heart centered stuff or whatever it is, you can get a specific crystal and put that under your pillow. And I'm always a fan of placing crystals under pillows. Right now I have what was the tourmaline, black tourmaline,
Yes.
which I've never really considered it as a quote unquote dream or sleeping
Yeah.
crystal. I put it under there just because of like it's good at clearing like radiation or any kind of energetic thing happening with technology. And sometimes, of course, we have our phone there, but it's like ever since I put black tourmaline under my pillow, my dreams have been so clear, like I sleep well,
I love
and
that.
I'm blown away by black tourmaline. I'm like, wow, I would have never assumed
I
that.
have to get myself some because, you know, I went to try to get some at a couple different shops and they didn't have any in stock. And this was like
Mm.
maybe like a month or so ago, and they didn't have any in stock. And I was like, well, another time, I guess. But even just the dream sachets that we made, that is intentional. We roll up a message, we put herbs and crystals in, and place it under our pillow or, you know, next to our dream space, and that in itself is
Hmm.
intention. That too, and like creating sigils, you know, what your intention is, and creating a sigil I did this a while back where I created the sigil,
Mm,
and then on a small paper, I used my finger and created this sigil with oil and put it above my head in one
I
of my
remember that.
ceiling
Yeah.
tiles, just so it was like right there. But there's so many ways
That's
to do
awesome.
this.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many. And also writing a letter to your psyche, your unconscious, or your spirit guides or higher self. That's definitely something, and I've shared this many times here on the podcast, so I'll keep it short, but that was one of the most profound dream incubation experiences I've had. And as we mentioned before, you want to give some sort of space to receive the message, the guidance, the healing. And in my experience of writing the letter, which it was prompted by Edgar Casey, who was like known as a sleeping prophet, like he would give readings to people in the hypnagogic state. He was like really known for that. And one of a practice suggested by him was like writing a letter to your higher self, your dreaming self, or your spirit guides. And so I did that. And my intention, my letter was about learning who my spirit guides were in order of dominance. And so I like made a dream sachet and I wrote the letter and put that all in there. And in that period of time, I had a lot going on and I was paying attention to my dreams. And I actually had really profound dreams in that time period, like within either, if it wasn't that night, it was definitely within 3 days. But what came to me, or the answer to my letter, came forth to me in a really deep trance meditation. Again, because I wasn't really paying that much attention to my dreams. So it made sense that it would reach me there. And I was blown away still to this day of like literally I have a list that I just like came out of the meditation and just started writing in
Oh, I
order of
love that.
dominance. And I have the paper, the notebook, the picture, all of it. So that's a very powerful practice that I still go to today and I recommend, is like writing a letter or writing out your intention, creating a dream sachet, or even if you don't, just writing the letter and putting it under your pillow. And also, if you can recall what you wrote in the letter, saying that, either in your head or aloud right before you fall asleep, is really going to be really powerful for the dream incubation
And if
and
you
getting
are
that
a lucid
solution.
dreamer, you can ask your dream while you're there the question that you were asking in the waking realm.
Yes.
I know you've done that before, where
Yes.
you've like asked questions to your dream within your
Thank
dream.
you. Yes, that reminded me because I was trying to think. I'm like, I've had so many of these experiences since you and I have been talking, and since we've been talking about dreams. And that was a big one where I was so curious and fascinated by the fact of talking to dream people, because you always talked about it, Alexis. And then I, heard in other books and whatnot of people, connecting with the dream people. And I was just like, there are people that show up in my dreams all the time. Most of the people that show up in my dreams are people that I know in real life. Even though I've learned through dream incubation, through those lucid dream experiences, that usually it's just an avatar. It's not really them. But I had that intention, and I definitely had that accomplished, and I was able to at least attempt to talk to them. But that was a whole part of the dream, was that it's not really them. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That is a really powerful experience and intention.
It's just another option. If you can do it, do it. Give it a go,
Mm-hmm.
you know? What's the harm in trying?
Yeah, and if you are having, nightmares, you can definitely approach that, wanting to get clarity around that. And also, if you just feel a little unsettled in your sleeping place, you can recite mantras or any type of prayers or anything, even spells, like while you're laying in bed for protection. And just reciting that as you fall asleep. I've definitely recited mantras as I fell asleep. And I've had really interesting experiences where I would already be asleep and I would wake up in the in between space and I would those mantras would like come out because there was something like negative in my space. Like I felt like it was a negative entity, and I would just start reciting Green Tara's mantra, which has always been a mantra for protection for me. So it was really interesting that that just kind of happened organically. So that's something you can definitely do for protection. Let's see, am I missing? Oh, another thing is too, is if you don't want to write or do anything else, you can literally just connect with your higher consciousness and just make that request and ask that question as you're falling asleep. And one of the things, if you're doing that, it was recommended to do that every night until you receive the answer.
Yeah, so like what I did last night was basically that, reciting the intention over and over as I was falling asleep. And that in itself, it's kind of like counting sheep, to go to sleep. Reciting that over and over, it gives
Yeah.
you that trance state that puts you into a nice deep sleep. So
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very powerful practice. And I'm really excited to do this again this week. And I'm excited to see what comes through because I definitely feel, I mean, I don't know, maybe not. I'm not sure, but eclipse seasons could be a really optimal time for this because we're all going through a lot. And I always kind of look to eclipse season as, this is the time where we kind of want to kind of let go a bit and just receive and just not do a lot of work because I feel with eclipses, it's like, the divine energies, the universe is kind of stepping in to do a little bit more of the work. But this is also a time where we can, just connect through the dream space and ask like, okay, a specific question. As things are turned up, we might feel like we're at a crossroads or like things are ending, things are ending, things are beginning. And yeah, it could be a potentially a good time to really get some clarity around
yep,
what's coming up and what's shifting for you.
I'm definitely going to try
So
to take
yeah.
advantage of it
Yeah, I'm
for
really
sure.
excited. Yeah. Another time I would recommend as far as astrology is Mercury retrograde, since the focus is already, inwards. And when we have that alignment of Mercury with the sun, when Mercury's retrograde, that's like the prominent prime time to do that. And also during, of course, Pluto retrograde, Neptune retrograde, those feel like really powerful times, especially when they make connection with the sun or the moon, is a good time to do any type of dream incubation.
That's good to know. I'll keep that on my list.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be updating you all on that too.
And I'm sure next week when we have our chat, we'll
Um,
go into like what our experience this week was.
yeah, that would be a good idea to do that. Yeah. I'm hoping for some, yeah, I think actually our chat is going to be the day of the solar eclipse. I'm pretty sure.
That would be Wednesday the 2nd.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our next chat is going to be the evening of the same day of the solar eclipse. That's going to be, I'm
Powerful.
excited. I'm so excited. Oh my
Me
goodness. Yeah. So
too.
we're going to have to check in. I feel that should just be kind of, I don't know, this is on the spot, but maybe just like we're going to check in, like a check in
Yeah.
episode, like see what's going on in the dream space, see what's happening energetically. We
Talk
would
about
love
our
to hear.
experience with
Yeah.
this and your
Yes.
experiences, whatever you guys intentionally did for sleep incubation, dream incubation, share with us, so we can share it, or just so we can see how you guys interacted with the dream
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Awesome. Well, I feel pretty complete with what we shared. And yeah, if you have any questions about this particular topic, if you want to share any dreams or share your experience outside of, here live, you can send us an email at the innerversepodcast@gmail.com and we will share anonymously. Or we don't even have to share, you can just share with us privately if you desire and just let us know in the email and we can discuss that there. But we would love to hear from you and just learn from you and what your experience is like with this particular topic or any topic that we discuss here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there any last points that you want to share? Any last words or anything or
I hope that you all took something from this and can use it to your benefit within the next week. And I really hope to hear what your experiences are. This is so different for each person and it's so unique to you. And we just would love to see what's going on in your dream space.
yeah. Yes, this is great. And I agree with everything you said, Alexis. We would love to hear about it. And this is definitely a profound practice. And it, if anything, it's just a really deep, direct way to connect with your psyche and to learn from yourself. Because again, no one can tell you you're wrong because no one knows you better than you. So it's just
Absolutely.
a beautiful, intimate connection. All right. So thank you everyone for listening. And please follow us on Spotify if you're listening to us on Spotify. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us live for these chats, as pretty much most of the episodes will be recorded live. And yeah, we would love to hear your perspective in real time. And until then, we will see you again next week for our live
Yeah.
chat on dreams.
Good evening to all and enjoy your dream space.
Sweet dreams, everyone.